Nashville Strength Broadway. The show is going to be at McCallum February 8th. And here to tell us all about it is Wayne Bryan and Steve Young. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this today. I know, Steve, you are co-creator, co-writer, you're a performer in this show. For those that don't know, some might hear that and be able to recognize what it was, but can you tell us what inspired you to create this show?
Well, the long backstory, I won't make it long, but years ago when I was a writer at the Letterman show, I had to gather strange records for the comedy bit called Dave's Record Collection, and I started going to thrift shops, and then I began finding bizarre souvenir records from company meetings, like the J.C. Penney musical or the B.F. Goodrich tire salesman convention, where there were musicals like a Broadway show, except the public couldn't go to it. It was just for the sales force. And so I thought this was wonderful. I wanted all of it I could get. Fast forward years, I co-wrote a book. I was in a documentary called Bathtubs Over Broadway, which is how I met Wayne, because he saw the movie when it was on tour. And Stuart Ross, who's a very accomplished theater writer and director, came to me and said, I think there's some sort of live show that could be done with these amazing weird songs. And so we've been working together on that, and then the McCallum said, oh, we would love to have a version of that here. And so Stuart and I worked it up for the extravaganza level that is what you need for a place like the McCallum.
There's so many things I love about this. The fact that you just stumbled upon this. You just found it while you're looking for a bit in the Letterman show, but it's so fascinating to also see the history of these shows, because this was not open to the public.
No,
right?
Not at all. They were not invited. They didn't even know about it. And I was an actor in about 20 of these. And you would try to describe this to your parents and say, well, this is what I'm doing. And they said, well, it's like a commercial. And he said, no, it's not a commercial. It's not for the public, but it's to get the sales reps, the people who work for a given company, all excited so they would create these full-fledged Broadway musicals. And many of these that Steve found have music and lyrics by people like Kander and Ebb, who were just on the verge of creating Cabaret in Chicago, and Bach and Harnick, who were about to create Fiddler on the Roof, and stars who would appear in these things. But this was a way to earn money as an actor, work with really good people, but the public had no awareness at all.
Steve, how did you put this show together? I mean, did you just combine all these shows into one? You pick your favorites?
Some of it is a little overview of, well, here's this hidden genre you never knew about. Listen to this crazy song. But a lot of it ends up being about my journey as somebody who went from a snarky young comedy writer on the Letterman show just looking for something to make fun of, down to me looking at these records and saying, who were these people that worked on them? What was that like? The detective work on finding them, finding out that in many cases they are absolute geniuses who were sure no one would ever come talk to them about this stuff. And it's become a life-changing personal adventure for me, where I feel like I have picked up honorary families. I've learned so much about music and history and American culture just by being a little bit curious about something strange I found.
Right, putting this show together.
You know how anything that you think might not apply to you, but you get involved with a stamp collection or you something else, and your parents say, well, study this, it'll open the doors to other things. And he found this totally unique thing that tells us a lot about how American culture embraced their workers, how people used to stay and work for a company for decades, you know, and from generation to generation. And in order to keep those families engaged, these companies would absolutely hire the best talent to create something that would make people leave that convention and say, oh my gosh, I'm in the best place. They just wrote a musical about me. I'm going to stay with this company forever. It was a different kind of America that we get to look at.
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah, if you work for a company and you go to this event and you're like, we just create a whole show about the company that I work at, which is so neat. And you were in these shows. What was that experience like?
Well, it was always wonderful. You always went to great locations. You worked with fabulous choreographers and directors. And you got to see the almost evangelistic pride that would happen in these people who were seeing their stories told on stage. I'm a tractor salesman, but these people thought enough about me to create a really stunning song and dance about what it is to be in a Ford tractor. I guess what I do is important. And I think that's what we all want in life, is to think that we are doing something that is important. And these are just so darn entertaining, and we have the best cast. A couple of Broadway national tour people leading it along with Steve, and 4 sensational local talents along with it. And so it's a multimedia show. There's video, there's audio clips, but there's live performances throughout the night.
What I love about this show is it's here in the Coachella Valley, but we have a performer from the former shows and the person who made this show, which is so special. And you're actually going to be performing in it as well.
That's right. I will mention also my co-writer, co-creator, Stuart Ross, also a veteran of many industrial shows. So many people in the theater world were in this shadowy secret universe, and now it's coming out of the shadows. But I've come out of the back room where I spent so long at the Letterman show, and now I'm up on stage in front of people saying, I've got something to show you that you won't believe. And I sing a little bit, but mostly I talk about the path I went down to finding people who changed my life. And along the way, I grew up, unlike Wayne, I knew nothing about real musical theater. I never went to Broadway shows. It wasn't in my life at all. And now I've kind of edged in from this weird...
And we'll have you.
Thank you. The weird side door that I kicked open, and I found this surprising, legitimate world of Broadway. I'm slowly learning about it.
The end result is really funny, because some of it is so bizarre, but then some of the melodies are just fantastic, and the lyrics are so smart. And it's an unusual evening of very traditional kind of Broadway musical theater, but with a twist.
I love it. Well, like you said, we get some astounding performers that are going to be here for this show. And as we mentioned, Steve is going to be performing, and we get a sneak peek of that performance. Take a look.
This is an Alan Sherman song from the 60s. Alan Sherman was the Hello Mudda, Hello Fada guy, but the Scott Paper Company said, oh, we'd like you to do an album of songs about our paper cups. And he said, all right, let's do it. So this is called Scott Cups. Things taste better in Scott Cups. Water is wetter in Scott Cups. Beer is sudsier, soup is slurpier, Alka-Seltzer is 3 times burpier. When you've got cold or hot, cups manufactured by the people at Scott. Ice is colder in Scott Cups. Scotch tastes older in Scott Cups. Any cola tastes so much colder. Holy water is somewhat holier. You can't lose when you use cups manufactured by the people at Scott. You pour some Metrical into your cup by Scott. Before you finish drinking, you have lost your pot. A little bit of prune juice works a whole lot faster. Not to mention oil of castor. Frank and Dino use Scott Cups. Drink their vino from Scott Cups. Moonshine served in Scott Cups in Georgia. And history tells us Lucretia Borgia served her drinks to those finks in cups manufactured by the people at Scott. Tennis champion told them they could save his cup. He'd rather have a Scott Cup than the Davis Cup. Blue tint in a Scott Cup looks a lot more bluish. Chicken soup tastes twice as Jewish. Bees make honey in Scott Cups. Scott makes money from Scott Cups. So keep ordering, and eventually Scott will come out okay financially. Yes, by gum, order some cups from Scott and not from Lily, not from Dixie, don't be silly, not from Sweetheart or Monsanto or Conex or the Continental Canco. Join the cause and buy a lot of cups manufactured by the people at, what the heck was that name? Oh, thank you.